This is the city of Los Angeles, and I'm standing in a place like this, and I can't get a signal. What's up?
Tonight on 2020 with Barbara Walters and John Stossel. Are you fed up with your cell phone?
What's that?
Say that again.
Are you there?
Dropped calls.
Hello.
Dead zones and a coverage plan that keeps you guessing. Should you fight your carrier or switch? Bill Ritter with a cell phone comparison that could help you decide.
I'm John Stossel, and I say, give me a break.
Now, from ABC News headquarters in New York, John Stossel.
Good evening, and welcome to 2020. Barbara has the night off. Well, love them or hate them, cell phones have changed the world. Most Americans have one now, and many of us never leave home without it. I feel anxious if I don't have mine with me. In the 20 years since these were introduced, they've made amazing advances in the technology. Now you can play games on cell phones, send email, even take pictures. But there's still one big problem: lost calls. We've all had service stop in mid-sentence and have times when we can't get through at all. Why? And do some cell companies offer better service than others? Bill Ritter says yes. He's checked it out, and he'll tell us what some say is the best and the worst.
Trouble finding a signal? Try GSM America, only for me.
The ads make it sound so perfect.
Works fine.
And they build it right.
T-Mobile, get more.
I mean, who wouldn't believe Catherine Zeta-Jones?
Hello?
Well, Austin Peterson doesn't buy it. In fact, he can barely hear it.
Yeah, are you there?
It doesn't matter where I am. You know, it'll drop the call.
Austin is one of the 10 million people who've now gone cold turkey and made their cell phone their only phone. But for Austin, who signed up with Singular, things aren't quite working out.
Hold on. Start that over again. I couldn't hear a word. I have an hour phone conversation with my girlfriend every night. I'd say that out of that hour, my phone call has dropped about 8 to 9 times.
And Austin's not alone. The Better Business Bureau recently found that consumers complain more about cell phones than any other industry except one: car dealers. And when Consumer Reports asked 31,000 cell phone customers to rate their service,
4 out of 5, in just the 1 week before we surveyed them, had a problem with dropped calls, dead zones, couldn't connect in the first place.
Like these cell phone users in California.
I had no service, poor service, dropped calls.
Oh, dead zones. Oh, my God.
The question is, are there any live zones?
So why not just switch carriers?
Are you there?
Well, like a lot of people, Austin is tied down to a 2-year contract.
What did you say?
If you leave early, carriers could slap you with a termination fee ranging from $150 to $400.
Well, it's gone.
You're ticked off.
No, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they make it seem like the cell phone's on the X-Files, you know. Everything's fine. Beam me up, Scotty. You know, it doesn't work like that.
Mike Connolly's a construction site project manager in Los Angeles.
This is the city of Los Angeles, and me and my boss both had AT&T, and I'm standing in a place like this, and I can't get a signal. What's up?
Steve Largent is spokesman for the wireless industry.
So this works on a radio frequency, just like your radio in your car. And sometimes, you know, as you're driving through the countryside or even in town, you'll temporarily lose your signal or you'll receive static. And the same thing occurs with a cell phone. That's why you have an occasional drop call.
I would have smashed my phone in front of you. There was no other use for it.
An occasional dropped call would have been just fine for Hope and James Wills of Brooklyn, New York.
If I were to get service, it was because I was in the corner of my bedroom on a radiator with my head like pressed against the grate.
So exactly why is this happening? Well, it turns out there are 3 main reasons. First, there simply aren't enough cell phone towers to handle all the cell phone calls. Second, many carriers can't share their towers because their networks are incompatible. And third, let's remember, these carriers are competitors, so even if their networks were compatible, many of them won't share their towers. Of course, the cell phone companies don't really like to advertise this. They'd rather brag about their nationwide service.
They know almost block by block when and where you're going to get good coverage and where there are going to be real holes and dead zones, but they don't tell you.
And they don't tell you because by law, they don't have to. So their coverage maps can say things like, actual coverage area may differ substantially from map graphics. And here's another thing the carriers won't tell you, but they admitted it to us. Some phones work better than others, depending on the network. That's information they do not share with the public. So here's a bit of advice. Test your new phone in the places you'll use it most. If you're not satisfied, take advantage of the trial period and return it. We wanted to see for ourselves how these carriers performed, so we hired the Good Housekeeping Institute to conduct a little experiment. 2 Good Housekeeping engineers used 4 national carriers to call the same telephone back at their office. Kind of a spot check of what a consumer might experience.
We have 4 Nokia phones virtually identical to each other. We have Verizon, we have AT&T, we have Sprint, and Singular.
They tested them twice in 5 locations. Times Square, this open field in Central Park, an elevator in their office building, a New Jersey suburb, and driving along Interstate 78, also in New Jersey.
This is the second test with this Singular service.
You're clear, but you sound a little bit more like you're kind of in a tunnel.
Now, on the road, all 4 carriers, for the most part, worked, but the quality depended on the location. For example, in front of this coffee shop in Maplewood, New Jersey.
It looks like there's no service in this location according to the phone, and then we have, 0 out of 7 bars.
AT&T wireless service didn't work at all.
Nothing. No good, no service.
Back in the middle of Times Square, it was Sprint which went dead.
We have no bars on the antenna, and we continually saying searching for service, so we'll say no service here.
And Sprint also couldn't connect in Central Park.
No can do.
And in this elevator at Good Housekeeping, both the Sprint and AT&T calls were unsuccessful.
So let's say the call does not go through, it dropped. Dropped while dialing.
Based on the signal strength and the perceived sound quality of the 10 calls, Good Housekeeping gave each company an overall rating. Singular came in first, Verizon second, AT&T third, and Sprint came in last for the 5 locations. We asked the carriers about Good Housekeeping's findings. Sprint told us the study was wrong, arbitrary, and unscientific, and at odds with independent test data, which they say show their New York coverage to be superior. AT&T said that the test was too limited to be useful, and that specific coverage depends on proximity to a cell phone tower. Both carriers told us they'd invested hundreds of millions of dollars to improve the quality of their networks. Now, we're not the only ones who've looked into this problem. When Consumer Reports surveyed those 31,000 customers in 12 major cities about their cell phone service, Verizon rated the highest in customer satisfaction. The others did significantly worse. Another measure comes from the FCC, which found that AT&T Wireless was the target of more complaints last year than any other carrier.
Friends don't let friends use AT&T Wireless. I'm sorry.
AT&T refused to talk about customer complaints on camera. So did Singular. But Singular did write us to say the vast majority of customers experience few problems.
What?
But Austin Peterson isn't one of them.
If I were the president of the Singular company,
yeah,
you had the opportunity to tell me something, what would it be?
I tell you to give me my money back.
That's our program for tonight. I'm John Stossel. For Barbara and for all of us in 2020, enjoy the weekend.
Only ABC News, honored with an extraordinary 20 Emmy nominations. No wonder more Americans get their news right here. ABC News.
I did not want to go home a loser.
I was sabotaged.
The Great Domestic Showdown, ABC Sunday.
A well-known TV personality and author has died. The controversy that preceded his death and what led to this ugly scene in the Senate. Next on Nightcast.